Well, for the first time in 6 seasons, neither Cal nor Oregon State was ranked in the top 25, but both teams were still very much in the mix for a conference crown. The same could not be said for the loser. Homecoming for Oregon State, and a homecoming of sorts for Kevin Riley, Cal's senior quarterback out of Beaverton, still waiting to play a good game against the team from his home state. Quiz Rogers is multifaceted, lining up in the Wild Beaver. How about his second career TD pass, 11 yards to Colby Prince. First career catch and score for the tight end from West Albany, 7-0 Beavers. Drive number 2, Quiz told us last week, wanted to take over more command of the offense in place of his injured brother James. How about this? Great delay and then a 32-yard pickup down to the 7-yard line. 2 plays later, Quiz got it in for himself from 2 yards out, 14-0 Oregon State. Later, bad news for the Bears. Cal, pinned deep in its own territory, completes the 32-yard pass to Marvin Jones, does Kevin Riley, but Riley gets rolled up on by Brennan Olander. Head coach Jeff Tedford said afterwards, it wasn't your everyday sprained knee. It looked pretty serious, and you can see by the reaction of Kevin Riley, it is serious. Second quarter, it's Quiz again, a 2-yard touch, 21-0 Oregon State, and without Riley, the Bears could not muster much on offense. Brock Manchin gets tripped up by Kevin Fromm, one of 5 Oregon State sacks on the day. In the next OSU drive, the Beavers then go to the air. They went with their normal quarterback, Ryan Katz, to Joe Halahuni down the middle, 17-yard score, 28 first half points for the Beavers. That's a season high. We go to the third quarter, and Jack Quiz with the rushing hat trick. This one from 10 yards out. Rogers 119 yards on the day, passes O.J. Simpson for 14th on the Pac-10's all-time list, and then the defense did the rest. Manchin drops back and gets hammered on the corner blitz by Brandon Harden. The Beavers had a shutout until Cal punched in a score with about 20 seconds left, but it's all Oregon State. 35-7 the final. Cal finished with just 206 yards of total offense. 93 of that came on the final drive, and without the threat of a passing game, Shane Vereen was bottled up, finished with just 53 yards on the ground.
Yeah, and Oregon State just the opposite. They were very balanced again. They had 197 yards on the ground, 195 through the air. Playing in their second game without James Rogers, the Beavers look like they may have found a guy who can handle most of James's old duties. We've certainly been singing the praises the past few weeks, and we do it again for Marcus Wheaton. He was all over the place against Cal. The sophomore kind of struggled with the knee injury this year, but he had 9 receptions for 57 yards and also 6 carries on that fly sweep for 73. Mike Riley said that coaching staff spent a lot of time in the bye week, not out recruiting for a lot of them, but staying home and putting into play some plays to get the ball into Wheaton's hands, and he certainly made it worth their while to stick around. As that fly sweep, a big part of what Oregon State has been doing the last few years on offense, keeps the defense honest by spreading them out, presents them little multiple threats with a possible run up the middle as well, that sweep, and Wheaton turned several of those into nice gains that led to scores. He can also return kicks too, although Jordan Poyer handled most of those duties during the week. But again, it kept Cal guessing. You can kind of stay within the tackles with Quiz or bounce it outside, and Marcus Wheaton kind of had those linebackers guessing which way they're going to be going, because he's got some speed to the edge, which we saw with James and now we see with Marcus. And can they keep this going to have another kind of, got to have Quiz, obviously, got to have a great game by Katz. He found Halahuni, but you got to have that other option. And certainly they think that they found that in Wheaton.
Well, one of the big things that stood out to me in this game was Jeff Tedford's offense versus Mike Riley's offense. And I think over the years, we've seen Jeff Tedford's offense to be very inventive, little trick plays, some wrinkles here and there. But with Andy Ludwig as the offensive coordinator down there, they went vanilla. I mean, it was Oregon State running all the trick plays. They had the wildcat formation with Quiz there, and they throw for the touchdown pass. Meanwhile, Oregon State, or I should say Cal, drop back, throw the ball, either get sacked, incomplete.
You knew what they were going to do.
And then when they did have a good play, it would be brought back by a holding penalty. So tough day all around for that Cal offense. Well, with the win over the Trojans, the Ducks' task is now as clear as ever. Win 4 games, and it's off to the BCS National Title game in Glendale, Arizona. Still to come on Inside the Pac. We will go back to the Coliseum for more with Oregon, a team on a mission as it continues to focus on the job at hand.
We just want to win games. You know, that's the most important thing. You know, the outside people are going to say whatever, who's number one. That stuff doesn't matter. You know, as long as we keep winning, that's the most important thing. You know, we play for our fans, we play for each other. You know, we really are a family. We don't play for anybody else.
Not only was it their first win at the Coliseum since the year 2000, but the Ducks have now won 2 in a row over USC, both in dominating fashion. Over 1,200 yards and 100 points for Oregon in those 2 meetings, and Saturday's win sets up Oregon heading down the home stretch. With more from LA, here's Dirk Weishar.
The top-ranked Ducks overcame some third-quarter miscues in rallying to defeat number 24 USC here at the Coliseum 53-32. But Michael James was spectacular yet again, 239 yards rushing on 36 carries, and that Oregon defense pitched a shutout yet again in the fourth quarter as Oregon runs its record to 8-0.
We pride ourselves on finishing and pride ourselves on our conditioning, and just in the second half, when it gets tough, we just keep pushing, and that's what we've done these past couple games, or the past 8 games, and it's worked for us.
We know there's going to be a game. Everybody may think it was going to be a blowout, but we know we was coming out here to compete, so it was a game.
When we started rolling a little bit and wore down on them, you know, you could pound them a little bit, but I think a lot of credit goes to LaMichael, obviously, and a lot of credit goes to our offensive line.
We just kept chipping away. You know, LaMike ran so hard, and you know, he really carried this team, and you know, we were just trying to give him holes, and you know, it ended up working out.
We all know the Ducks love to run that fast-paced style of offense, but in the fourth quarter, Oregon had some nice sustained drives, which resulted in points. Now the question is, can the Ducks sustain an unbeaten season with the Huskies coming to town next week? Reporting from Los Angeles, I'm Dirk Weishar for Inside the Pac.
Well, you heard it right there, unbeaten season. So now the final 4 games start, Jordan, with who else? The Huskies here at Autzen.
And Washington's kind of reeling right now. Now, you don't obviously want to go into a game and say this is an automatic win, but of the 4 games, you would think that this would be the easiest one. And so obviously, you just need to take care of business at home.
Yeah, and as we see here, Stanford just had no problem running the ball. And to me, it sets up pretty bad for Washington when you talk about that.
It does, and it's surprising because Coach Sarkisian really had this team playing very well and coming out prepared. But the last 2 weeks, they just haven't really been able to find their stride. And now they have a very tough matchup coming in Eugene to face the Ducks.
And not to look too far ahead, but now with Cal losing Kevin Riley, I mean, that Arizona game out there sits as one of the bigger hurdles on the Final Four stretch here.
It really does, and what you want to make sure is during the Washington and Cal games that you don't have a lapse in focus at all, and you don't really lose that edge. You want to make sure that, listen, let's take care of business, and we know that our 2 toughest games are going to be the last 2 games of the year, and let's make sure that we're ready for those.
And Jake Locker, we see the interception there. Has a guy in the college football realm had his stock fall further than Jake Locker this year?
I don't think there's anybody at all, and it's too bad because obviously he had a chance to come out and be possibly the #1 pick last year, but you got to give him credit for staying in school and trying to really help out this Husky team, but it is unfortunate to see him perform this poorly lately.
And another reminder, we've got plenty more Ducks and Pac-10 content as well as the Beavers online. Just go to InsideThePac.com. Well, now at 3-1 in Pac-10 play, the Beavers still control their own destiny in the race for the Roses. Still to come on Inside. We will go back to Reeser for more from Oregon State and a dominating defensive effort against the Bears.
We came out and did exactly that, 23 yards rushing. I got to give it up to my boys, my teammates. We played tough and fought hard.
The Oregon State defense has certainly taken a hit in the stat department, but the Beavers came within 20 seconds of pitching the first shutout since 1983 Saturday against Cal. As for the Bears, they lost any hope of moving the football as soon as Kevin Riley left the game with an injury.
We knew once he went down, they were going to rely a little more on the run, you know, and we had to see what the new quarterback was going to bring, and you know, so their game plan changed a little bit, and we you know, we matched them step for step.
Having success stopping their run, controlling their run, and then we got some runs going that looked like good stuff going on early in the game, and that, you know, if you look just at those stats, that was a major difference in the game.
I think this was a statement game for us because, you know, coming off that tough loss for us, then bouncing back like this with a great win like this with our defense played well and also our offense, it was great.
Inside the Pac will be back after this. Saturday Scholar Time. Nick, we start with you.
Yeah, sometimes a scholar needs to go to an entire defense. The Beaver D gets the nod this week. They've had their moments of being shredded this year, but contained Cal to 23 net yards rushing on 25 carries, sacking Riley and Manchin 5 times. Jordan, who you got?
My scholar goes to Jeff Mail. The former defensive back is arguably the best receiver in the conference and the go-to guy for Darren Thomas. Against SC, the mailman caught 8 balls for a career high, 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tom, who you got?
My scholar goes to the leading rusher in the nation. Everybody wants to be like LaMike. His 3rd game of 200 yards or more this season, going 239 yards on 36 carries against USC. That's 6.6 per game. Thanks to Jordan Kemp for joining us on Inside the Pac, and thank you at home for watching. Next week, the Ducks host the Dogs. The Beavers are at UCLA.